How we doing, folks? Let's get into some hoodwinking and some shenanigans and some craziness in Dalton. And I don't know if you guys caught this video, the live stream last night. I was watching it in my car and I was in bad traffic in Seattle. And I'm like, what did she say? How many million did she say? So I'm going to give you a run through real quick. The notes I took from Lori Lightfoot's, her speech. It went about half an hour. I'm not going to make you watch that because it's kind of boring. I found it exciting, but only because of the magnitude of the numbers we're talking about. I thought this would be in the million or two, but you've got swings of millions upon millions of dollars. We're going to get into it. Let's do that right now. Okay. So the big one, the general fund, which the Village of Dalton operates from within, it had a swing from April of 2022 to May of 2024 of $9 million. They were positive 5.61 when Tiff took over. Now they're somewhere between 3.65 and 5.5 million in debt. Numbers are just boom, going the wrong way. So you got a swing of somewhere between $9 and $10 million there alone. And I say that because you've got these cash flows coming in and out. You've got, as of June 24th, you have got 589 checks that have been printed, signed, but not delivered to the vendors that they go to. You got 589 checks that are worth over $6.1 million. $6.1 million that have not been sent out. They owe that money. They've got it in their system that, hey, we know we owe this. And that doesn't include millions of dollars of additional invoices that haven't been set out. You know, some of that has to do with they don't have a central depository where the vendors can put their invoices in and then get paid. They don't have that. They also don't really have an accounting department. They don't have a treasurer. Village of Dalton doesn't have a treasurer. We are basically operating off of these monthly reports that an accounting firm kind of put together. The whole thing is just so convoluted. It's the 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗧 accounting firm. And what they did is they went through January 2021 through May of 2024, the monthly reports. And then Lori Lightfoot corroborated those with bank statements. And then they interviewed some people. And that's literally what her report is made up of. So none of this stuff has been verified because the Village of Dalton has not submitted an audited report or a report at all since 2021. Yeah. So after Tiff took over, no more financials went out. They just didn't do any financial reporting. And it's because the books are cooked. I mean, they are cooked. I mean, it is done. Whew. Lori Lightfoot was investigating the village's credit card and also the township of Thornton, where Tiff is the supervisor of trustees, because you've got credit cards from Thornton paying expenses in Dalton. So this is so convoluted. But what they were able to determine, there was nine trips, Birmingham, DC, Vegas, Jackson, Mississippi, Austin, Portland, Illinois. They had 10 hotel rooms in Illinois paid for by Village of Dalton. That sounds like a fun time, right? 10? You got 10 hotel. What was that all about? We don't really know. And the reason we don't know anything about any of these expenses is because receipts are never turned in. Okay. Well, that's how you cook the books even further, right? You just don't report them. Now, what you're going to see in all the news stories, all the stuff coming out, is that there was a $44,000 single day charge, 3 different charges, but in one day, somebody took a credit card and bought $44,000 worth of stuff from Amazon. That's interesting. On top of that, and that was January 5th of 23. December 11th, 2023, you've got a $400 charge and an $800 charge to Best Buy that were probably gift cards. I'm just giving you these as examples of what Lori Lightfoot came up with. And then on 9/1/23, you've got a single charge to Wayfair.com, which is like home goods and furniture and Probably crap you don't need, but hey, it's cheap. Let's get this. At a single day charge, 9/1/23 of $7,699.99 to Wayfair on a Village credit card. I mean, they're just charging things left and right, just all day long. One of the quotes coming out of this that I saw that was pretty interesting was Dan Lee. He's the older gentleman that I think had a singing career at one point in time. He said, "I'll probably be dead by the time they fix this thing. That's how long it's going to take to straighten this out." Because it's so crazy how far these books have been cooked. Now, a lot of people have been questioning the whole thing with Lori Lightfoot. Why is Lori Lightfoot doing this? And after she gave her report, I was like, okay, all right, here's the deal. The Village of Dalton needs to have some understanding of where they sit right now. They can't wait for the FBI report. They can't wait for authorities. They need to know just kind of real basics. Where do they sit? And they sit in an absolute world of hurt, but they need to be able to make some decisions. And so what you saw from the meeting last month, from last Monday, was they made a bunch of decisions based on that, basically cutting off credit cards, firing Chief Lacey, or not firing and putting him on administrative leave, because one of the big things, and we're going to talk about it in just a sec, is one of the big expenditures that went up within their budget was police overtime, including Chief Lacey taking overtime that he's not approved for, over a couple $100,000. So you've got all of these moving parts that add up to literally millions and millions and millions of dollars that have just gone. Now, did they spend it all? Or have they been putting it in their pocket? Those are some other questions that I have. We don't know because we don't have a set of audited books. We don't have all the cash flows from the various different things. Now, some of the things that, so annual financial statement is what they're supposed to do, and an audited financial statement, two documents that by law they're supposed to do. They haven't done one of those since 2021. Oops, because those books are cooked. And so, here we go. Here's all the money we spent from the Village. Thanks so much. Here's all the credit card statements. Nah, you're going to bury that, right? And let's just see how long we can ride this bus. Get on the bus, Gus, right? So they've got no CPA, but they've kind of got this finance department within the Village. And that's basically this accounting firm that is basically looking at monthly reports, bank statements, and interviews. So you've got this $9 million swing in their general fund. Doesn't look good. I mean, and you're going to hear about the gasps and and people laughing from the meeting because they're so shocked that they are insolvent, and they are more than insolvent. It's crazy. So one of the other thing is the Village expenses have gone up about 30% over the last couple of years. And what that means is that the Village takes in a couple million a month, right, of revenue. And I'm giving you just real broad strokes here. A couple million. So they take in about 24 million a year gross, right? Gross. And so their expenses have risen to about 30 million. So they're going 6 million-ish, 6 million-ish a year in the hole. So I was questioning yesterday on the live stream, say they're 5 million in the hole, 6 million in the hole. What does that mean? Well, if you're taking in 24 million gross as your income, and you've got a deficit of 6 million, it's going to take you a while to work your way out. If you ever do, you're going to need some kind of bailout. I mean, this Village is insolvent. And so what Lori Lightfoot's report does is it gives them a starting point right now today. Okay, what are the things that we need to look at? Because they don't have a set of books to look at and go, oh, okay, here's where the spending's happening. We're way overboard here. We're way overboard here. What is going on with the credit cards? Right? I mean, what's happening? We've got 6 credit cards and they seem to be used just willy-nilly because you've just got shenanigans all over the place. So you got about a 30% increase in Village expenses, just straight up. And those come down to 2 basic places, the general admin kind of payroll and then the police department payroll. Let me get to that. So you got two cops that have made more. You got Terry Young and you got William Reed. They have made more in overtime than their base pay. Now that's not crazy unusual in a big urban police department. You got cops here in Seattle making $400K, but they are working their ass off legit because you don't have enough cops on overtime because they need that. The two cops here, they're just chasing Tiff around. Just, what can we do to help you out today, Mayor? Because they're on her personal payroll. And by that, I mean payroll that the village is covering that is unnecessary. She doesn't need all the security. So these cops that are more than their base pay in overtime, they're making a couple hundred a year. And that's just one more example of how things have just spiraled out of control. Another big expenditure was their liability insurance. This is not shocking. So it's gone from, they have their liability insurance. And if you don't really know what that is, it's just, it's an insurance policy that like a business has to cover any, crazy stuff that goes down, lawsuits against the village. So they've got about 30 lawsuits outstanding, something like that. So as these lawsuits have stacked up, they've gone from 1.2 million premium, what they pay for their policy, 1.2 million in 2022 to 3.2 million in 2024. Makes absolute sense. It triples? Yeah. It just about triples because they've got so many lawsuits coming in that their liability insurance administrator is going, you guys are not a good risk. If you want a policy, you can have one, but it's going to cost you. And moving forward, that'll be even more expensive because these lawsuits are just stacking up. Another huge component of money outstanding is going to be legal fees. You're not going to hear that in most other stuff, in most other podcasts, because these are kind of the little details, but the details make up the big picture. And Village of Dalton has just been run over so hard that there's all these little details that kind of, they all point to the big picture. And at every single little way that the village can be basically stolen from, allegedly, because we don't know any of this for absolute certain, but it doesn't look good, right? I mean, just where we sit right now does not look good. It's inevitable that charges will be filed. It's inevitable. You can't sidestep millions and millions and millions of dollars. So you got Terry Young, you got William Reed, more in overtime than base pay. Chief Lacey took $215,000 in overtime, even though he is not eligible for overtime per his contract. That is why he was put on administrative leave, I believe. Not because they're trying to cut money, because they need to cut huge amounts of money to the point where they can't cut all their expenses to get to a point where they're solvent. They are insolvent right now. Village of Dalton is insolvent. They don't have enough revenue to cover their expenses, and they haven't had enough revenue since March of 2023. That's when they kind of, all their money, they had money in their bank accounts, and then all of a sudden, boom, we don't have money. And so that's when you started to see credit card expenses from the township of Thornton for Village of Dalton expenses. Hey now, what happened there? We talked about this. Cash flow issues. You ain't got no money? Borrow it from somebody else. And by borrow, I mean steal, because you're not authorized to do that. So what happened is that over the last year, massive amounts have been put on credit cards because they ran out of cash. They don't have cash to cover their outstanding expenses. And that's where you end up with putting expenses on credit cards. But the big one was withholding 589 checks. You get 589 checks that should be going out for $6.1 million, but they haven't gone out because you can't cash them. They are bounce checks. Those are rubber. So how many lawsuits now do you think you're going to have from vendors who are owed that $6 million? You're going to have federal intervention in this. I mean, it's just inevitable. At some point in time, somebody's going to have to step in and go, you, and you, we're going to need to talk to you some more. And by that, hands behind back, we're going to need to escort you to the white van, have a little talk downtown. I don't know how all that goes, but it's crazy. So we've got these huge cash flow swings. The big takeaways from this are that there is no budget and then no reports have been filed. So they're going to have to get on that to actually figure out where things sit, because just by going with monthly reports, that's not going to do it. That is not how you can run and identify all of the stuff outstanding. But so we don't really even know how insolvent Village of Dalton is, because you've got so many outstanding invoices that aren't accounted for. You've got an accounting system that doesn't really work. You don't have anybody in the village. You had a part-time person that was kind of doing some stuff, but you don't have a central point for any of these invoices to go. You know that you're millions and millions of dollars upside down in your accounts because they've all just been drained out. You've got multiple accounts that have just been drained. So, how is TIFF going to, explain all of this? So if you want to watch a video, this is the one, Lori Lightfoot, Dalton investigation presentation. That was on WGN. That's a good one to watch. There's a couple of others. It's about a half an hour long. And if you can get through it, I've watched it 3 times, so I have a decent understanding of what to tell you. But what you're going to see is unexplained purchases like this one. Unexplained purchases, lots of overtime lead to deficit in Dalton. You know what? It's not the overtime. It's not the 44 grand in expenses. It's all of this together, but those are the leading ones that they're going to want to talk about, right? We're going to go through it. We're going to highlight a few because you're going to be seeing all kinds of videos come out, analyzing different things. And yeah, there's so many different pieces of this puzzle. Here's another one. TIFF locked the doors on the city council chambers again. Yeah. That's the 3rd time she's done that. So one of my thoughts is she's going on the run. After this report, how can you claim that the village has been bamboozled by opponents of Tiffany Henyard? You can't. So we know the shenanigans are real. And did we need former Mayor Lori Lightfoot to come in and do that? You needed somebody to do that. And one of the explanations by the trustee was they brought in Lori Lightfoot because people will talk to her. And I was like, okay. And she wouldn't be my first person to talk to, but whatever. If there's some level of trust, if people trust her, maybe they voted for her. That makes sense, right? They voted for her. Hey, here's what I know. So they corroborated that third piece. They corroborated via interviews with the monthly reports and the bank statements. It's all they had to go on because there ain't nothing else. TIFF and Co. have just been cooking the books. They're not going to give you an audited report of their badly cooked books. It is done. It is well done. Chicago's former mayor, Lori Lightfoot, who was hired to investigate Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard, presented her findings Thursday in an ongoing investigation in Dalton's finances. I know how I felt when I started seeing some of these numbers, so I can imagine how all of you are feeling after all this time in the dark. She started off with just some punching, punches to the core. She just went right after TIFF. She basically just said, hey, you guys have had some nasty stuff done to you, and this is how I would feel. So she's kind of giving that, trying to do the empathy thing. Trustees in the Dalton Village Board hired Lightfoot after months of chaos. She's been able to review some, but not all credit card spending because we don't know where all these charges, we don't have any accounting and we don't have any receipts for any of this stuff. Receipts are not turned in. So you've literally got massive amounts of spending with virtually no accountability. We want to highlight a couple of credit card purchases. Lightfoot said to audible gasps from the crowd. You're having the same reaction that we did when we saw this. That's literally what she's saying. Because the crowd is like, that's not good. That's not good. You can literally hear it. You can just hear the cringe, just the puckering up. Lightfoot questioned 3 Amazon purchases in a single day that totaled more than $43,000. An unexplained Wayfair purchase of $76.99, along with PayPal money transfers and gift cards, all charged to the village on credit cards. These and the A lot of the credit card, a lot of the expenses went to the police department, and there is no, they were itemized as miscellaneous police department expenses. You needed something from Wayfair.com for the police department? Yeah. Lightfoot also noted Henyard's well-documented taste for travel. He got the 9 trips, one with 10 hotel rooms. That was in, I think, mid-Chicago, mid-Illinois. They had a couple of different. One was a $9,000 stay at a Four Seasons hotel. This is excluding anything to do with Tiff's cancer charity. I mean, you've got, this is excluding anything really so far with the township of Thornton. We're not really covering that yet because they've focused on just the village of Dalton, and this is where they sit. So village of Dalton, absolutely host. Gonna take a long time to get out of this. So Henyard's former chief of staff in Dalton, 𝗥𝗘𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗕𝗏, told us last January the mayor spent taxpayer money freely. Yes, she did. Over-the-top meals, lobster, crab legs. She likes the good stuff. That's what you're going to see a focus on. It's not lobster. It's not crab legs. That is not how you spend millions and millions of dollars. You've got some big chunks of change that are unaccounted for here. But collectively, this is how you get there. It's an overall effort at just taking a town, bending it over and saying, this is what you're getting. This is what you're getting. And then you claim after it's over that you're being bamboozled. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. I wonder what Tiff is doing today. Tiff was not at this meeting. She was not at this meeting. I mean, could you imagine? The whole thing is it's absolutely wild. Let's look at another story here. Dalton General Fund, $3.65 million in debt, down from surplus of $5.6 million when Henyard took office. All of these numbers reflect when Tiff took office, they had surplus. They were in decent shape. They were in okay shape. They hadn't had anybody that they'd had to worry about from the standpoint of coming in and just absolutely ripping them off. So they didn't have protocol in place to prevent this. And that is one of the reasons Lightfoot was brought in, is so that they can get a start. They can get a start. Now, what you've got, I think 4 or 5 board members that are running, and I think their campaign is Clean House 2025, meaning in 2025 elections, they're going to wipe the slate clean. And what they need to do is they need to get their police department under control. They need to get Tiff, the super mayor, the Tahoe Tiff, even though Tahoe's basically got sent back to the finance company. You need to get the super mayor out of there. You just do. I think she'll be taken out, but she's not going to go down without a fight. I mean, locking the doors. What really is that going to do? I was thinking about that. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you make a fort in the living room with the cushions from the couch. But at some point in time, your parents are going to say, hey, I want to sit down there. I want to watch TV. Give me my couches back, or my cushions back. You got to get rid of the fort. At some point in time, authorities are going to come in and say, you can't just lock the door on city council chambers and consider this going away. Just not happening, right? It's just not happening. Tiff is going to have to hunker down or go on the run. I mean, take your pick. You're going to hold in the pocket to millions and millions and millions of dollars that you're on the hook for. Now, let's say that some of these charges are legit. Let's go down that route. Some of these charges are legit. All right, pony up the receipts. Let somebody put the books together and we'll figure it out. But Tiff just keeps saying there's so much is going to come out. So much is going to come out. And she's right. It did. And what we need to understand, this is non-binding. Lori Lightfoot's, her investigation, those results are going to go to the authorities investigating right now. That's the FBI, right? Certainly not going to give them to the local police. Here, Chief Lacey, here's how you screwed over your own village. Well done. Hey, about that $215,000 in OT that you took, that you, per your contract, your union contract, you're not supposed to take. You're not authorized to take, but you took it anyway. I think there's some liability with Chief Lacey still being in the pocket there. And that's why he's on admin leave so that their attorney can figure out what to do. That is my guess. Somebody was telling me in live chat this morning that he'd been fired. I've seen that as well. I've seen tons of people saying he's fired. I think he's on admin leave, and I think he'll be there for as long as the attorneys figure out what to do. Village of Dalton, do they need to hire additional attorneys? I don't know. I mean, are the folks that they have on board capable of dealing with what we're dealing? I don't know, right? Those are some of my thoughts, is that when you're dealing with the amount of, basically, let's call it what it is, theft, Tiff and Co. have stolen from the village millions and millions of dollars one way or another, whether you want to call it misappropriation of funds or misuse of funds, whatever you want to call it. This money is not accounted for. It can't be accounted for. But I admire Tiff. Here's what I admire about Tiff. She stands in the pocket and just says stuff right back at you that you're like, well, I don't really have an answer for that because it's so out of left field and it makes no sense, that you're like, well, that makes no sense, but what do I respond with? You know what I mean? She just says stuff. And then when she really gets put on the squeeze, no comment. Yeah, talk to my attorney. And that's why she doesn't do any interviews. She's done virtually no interviews in recent years. And it's because she sticks her foot in her mouth. She just wants to talk, and she wants to yell like she does from the podium at all of her constituents and the trustees. But that's not going to work when you're up against somebody that has logic, right? So lit up and laid out in cold, hard numbers on a big screen, it appears Dalton's bank accounts are depleted. They are gone. Bamboozled out of there. They are gone. I mean, one of the accounts went from over $2 million. Forget which account that was. Went from over $2 million to, I think it was $3,900. I mean, it was a massive swing. And it's because they've just been using money where they see fit. Hey, we got all this money. These accounts are full. This village is being run well. Let's take a little trip. Let's go here. Let's go there. Let's go there. I'm surprised they didn't take any international trips. I mean, yeah. One of Mayor Lori Lightfoot at the very beginning, as of May 30th of this year, the village's general fund was in a net deficit position. Boom. She just laid that out there. And you're kind of thinking a net deficit position, like $100. I mean, are we down, a couple of grand? Nah, it's in the millions. It's 3.65 or 5.5, depending on which date you pick. It's a $10 million swing. It's between a $9 and a $10 million swing. And so these constituents, these trustees are sitting there going, ooh. And when you watch the video, you'll hear those murmurs. You will hear the Lori Lightfoot had, let's see if I can get here's what it looked like. Let's see if I can get, I'm not going to do the audio. But yeah, here's her sidekick. This is probably a CPA. We weren't introduced to who this was, but she's a young lady and has a financial background. She's the accountant, right? She's the bean counter. That's who we go to for numbers. So when Lori Lightfoot didn't really, she's a former prosecutor, not a CPA. She made that clear. So this is who she has as her mouthpiece for explaining a few of the things. One of the funnier aspects was when she made some of the big kind of outrageous, hey, this is what happened with your money. She was just looking around and you could see her eyes going, oh, do I continue? Because these people are pissed. These people are hot. And they were more out of shock and surprise. And so she's kind of looking over at Lori Lightfoot like, do I keep going? Are these people gonna, are they gonna jump on me? I don't really know. And you could see her kind of smiling out of nervousness. It was an awkward moment. It's about probably 3/4 of the way through the speech. It's just, you've got a whole bunch of that. And that's what the media is going to focus on. They're going to focus on the oohs and ahs from the audience. Here's another one from Como News. That's my local station here. Illinois village spent $43,000 on Amazon in single day, investigation shows. Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, because that's what's going to get the views. Amazon. What were they buying for the village at Amazon? Nothing. They were buying stuff for themselves. So I want to know, and you probably want to know as well, what happened to all the money? Did they just piss it away, for lack of a better term? Is that what they did? Probably. How much do they have? And by how much do they have? Chief Lacey? Tiff, Super Mayor, the dictator of Dalton, Tahoe Tiff without the Tahoe. How much money does she have left? I mean, they're going to go through her bank accounts. Guarantee the FBI has already said, hey, we need you to open up your purse. And by that, I mean, your financial position, we're going to need to know exactly where all of your nickels have gone. Maybe Chief Lacey. Hey, Chief, about that 215 that, you probably shouldn't have taken in overtime. Let's talk about that. Are they going to have to give back some money? I mean, are you going to have some fines? Probably. You going to have some prison time? I mean, the extent to which this has gone is pretty, it's pretty egregious. Let's just say that. Millions and millions and millions of dollars. What will that end up with? Probably some light sentences. I don't see anybody doing any crazy time here, but I think people will get prosecuted. I think they will. I mean, just the amount of money that's gone out. Yeah, here's another one. Gasps, groans, and laughter and disbelief dominate Lori Lightfoot's presentation on Dalton finances. I don't want to bore you with too many clips because it took Lori Lightfoot a while to get it kind of all together, and which I respect, but it's not exciting stuff. But it's financial stuff.
It was a full house, and some of the people in the room tonight are the same ones who attend the monthly meetings with the mayor. They witnessed the dysfunction there, now seeing for themselves the numbers behind that fighting. One of the biggest reactions from the crowd tonight came when Lightfoot presented an example of police overtime. 2 officers making more in overtime than their base salaries, totaling $192,000 for one officer, the other $227,000 in the last fiscal year. The acting police chief, who we learned tonight has been terminated, isn't even eligible for overtime, and yet he's gotten more than $200,000 in OT over the last 4 fiscal years. And then, of course, there's the credit card spending.
$40,000 at Amazon. What a slap in the face to everybody that reside in 60419 zip code.
We have to find a way to rid our village of that malevolent administration that we now live in.
And there are real consequences to this budget crisis. The trustees announcing tonight there's a hiring freeze and there will likely be more layoffs to come in addition to the ones they approved earlier this week.
The problem is they're not going to be able to fire their way out of this. They just can't do it. They don't have the ability to do that. They don't have enough revenue coming in to make this thing go. Here's another one I found interesting. So this Dalton trustees get bleak financial report. Bleak is when your revenue doesn't quite meet your expenses. That's bleak. It's like, the outlook is not good. This was a horrific financial report from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. We've been trying to stop this. The village hasn't really figured out which way they're going to go. They haven't been able to figure out because they've been stonewalled by Tiff, the super mayor, at every single little point. And they're like, okay, what do we do? And I think the only individual that's been able to kind of push in the right direction has been Keith House, I think it is. He's the Bank of America. He's got a background in finance. He's been able to push, and he actually interjected with Mayor Lori Lightfoot, former Mayor Lori Lightfoot, former prosecutor Mayor Lori Lightfoot. He interjected a couple of times, and he did the math for everybody in the room. He's like, that's a $9 million swing there. And Lori Lightfoot was, because he wanted it to be clear to the village just how bad this is. He also clarified another point with one of the police officers. You've got the cops in this it's not looking good. You've got your own basically private security firm being paid for by the village of Dalton with massive amounts of OT because they're on Lori Lightfoot or they're on Tiff Tiff just 24/7. I mean, literally, they're with her 24. I mean, what does that look like? I don't know. You know what I mean? 10 hotel rooms. I mean, I'm going to say it again. That's a party right there. You take your cohorts and 10 hotel rooms. Anything can happen, right? Shenanigans. And then we go to the New York Post. Village led by Dalton dictator Mayor Tiffany Henyard spent 43 grand on Amazon in one day. That's what they want to focus on because if it bleeds, it leads, right? But that's not what I'm focusing. I'm focusing on the bigger picture because I'm a business guy. And that's why you probably tune in here because I'm not going to go down the road of let's talk about the $43,000. Can you believe it was $43,000? Can you believe that? Yes, I can. Because you got to spend more than $44K in Amazon, $43K on Amazon. You got to do a bunch more than that to go millions and millions of dollars upside down. This whole notion of $44K at Amazon, that's going to be the big story because that's what people can wrap their head around. All this other stuff, overtime, not authorized, the general fund just being depleted. You could literally hear in the room while Lori Lightfoot is doing her video when she's talking like this for half an hour, people were zoning out. They were like, let's play just a smidge of a clip. I don't want to bore you, but this is what it was.
We thought it also important to know that acting chief Lacey has accumulated overtime. It's our understanding that he is not part of the collective bargaining unit and has not been for some time, which under normal circumstances would mean that he is not entitled to overtime. But as you can see here, for FY22, FY23, and FY24, and we're now in fiscal year 2025, through those 4 years, he's accumulated $215,747.
That dirty rat. That dirty rat. And it just goes on and on and on with stuff. But, the Amazon purchases are going to be the big thing. The cops getting OT that they shouldn't have. That's another thing. But there's, that on top of literally millions of dollars worth of charges, expenses that have gone up, revenue that has not gone up. That's what you kind of need to remember is that there is a big picture here and the media is going to focus on a very small portion of that. But it's all this stuff that goes together that has cooked the books. And the super mayor has done an excellent job of bamboozling the village of Dalton. All right. That's what I'm going to leave you with. That's all I got right now. I hope that was informative. For those of you that super chatted me, thank you. And thanks for watching the live stream. More to come. This was your kind of 10,000 foot overview. We're going to have stories on this stuff for days. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for joining the live stream. Bye for now.